Salve people of the universe, my name is Lord Salvator, and we're going to have to talk about Ukraine, Zelensky, Elon Musk, Donald Trump, the recent developments by the European Union, and as well as, of course, the things that have been happening in the East. And by that I mean not the Middle East, I'm talking about mostly China, Japan, Korea, and the signals that we're getting from all these situations. For people who don't understand what I'm talking about here, I'm just going to lay down a basic foundation here. For people who are new here, because I'm assuming a lot of you might be new here, Gemtocracy is an ideology based on innovation, capitalist tendencies, but with social policies and an aim towards technology. So progress is very important to us, justice is important to us, but we don't try to take things too far to one side or another side. We are not necessarily conservative, we are not necessarily liberal, we take everything on a case-by-case basis. And as such, I understand why Russia invaded Ukraine the first time around, but we also have to understand that even though that has a good reason, it doesn't mean it should happen, and a reason is not an excuse. It's kind of like when you are very upset by something that happened in your day, so you start yelling at your family member. It's a reason why you're doing it, but it's not an excuse. You can't just do that, right? So the question is, in regards to whether or not I support Donald Trump and his administration as a person, or this ideology could support them, it's an emphatic no. And I'm going to explain to you exactly why. As with Russia, there's been a pattern. They've been invading small little areas all over the world for a long time. The USA isn't any different, really, except they had the excuse of freedom, the excuse of democracy. That was their excuse. They said that's why we're doing it, right? And in a lot of cases, the United States actually did make the places they went to better, but not necessarily good. If we look at countries where, like Libya, where the leader Gaddafi was ousted and killed with help of the Americans, that country actually didn't end up being better now. And a big reason why a lot of these countries become very totalitarian is because of religious values and economical values. And when it comes to economy, that's something that America is very good at. The United States is very good at that. So what happens when you have a president who specializes in economics, even though he has gone bankrupt here and there? He still specializes in economics. He is a businessman. He's not really a politician, but more of a businessman than a politician. He wants to strike deals. He wants to have benefit for his country. What happens when someone like that is in charge? Well, you kind of get the thing that Russia was accused of, which is an oligarchy. And what that basically means is it's an ideology, basically, where a form of government, I would say, where all people, especially rich old people, are the ones in charge. Now, it's kind of the byproduct of the American capitalist system. And as I said, I'm not a fan of communism at all. I hate communism, but capitalism has a way that it's supposed to work, and I can tell the United States doesn't have it in the right form. And we can tell by how outraged people were against the United Healthcare CEO, to the point where one guy named Luigi, not the one from Mario, he actually shot the CEO, right? And we have to understand what this means. We have to understand what signal is being shown from the American government compared to the American people. Do I think that Donald Trump was a better choice than Joe Biden or Kamala Harris? Absolutely. For America. And maybe, in the end, for the world. You see, I think that Donald Trump being in charge means that we finally get to the point where the war actually accelerates. And by that I mean the Age of Escalation war. If you're interested in that, you can look up the Age of Escalation thesis. It's on this channel as well. But to give you a brief summary, it's basically saying that there's going to be a cultural, ideological world war. And this means that there's going to be chaos for a while. But I think this is also a good thing, because after the Age of Escalation comes a new Age of Enlightenment. You see, what the Age of Escalation really is kind of like a purge, I would say. It's a human race wide-scale purge. And it's going to help us get rid of certain factors to stabilize the elements, and that's going to be better for humanity in the end. But I am going to be very, very careful with what I'm saying here, because I want to make it very clear. I do not like that people have to die, but I'm being realistic here. And using that notion of people have to die to protect the cultures that are the best ones, right? Using that notion, we can see where the United States is now going wrong with President Zelensky. Now, Zelensky was brought to power partially with the help of the United States government. And now they're turning their back on him. And now the United States government is saying, we don't care about you if you don't give us anything, because they have that business mentality, right? What do you offer us? Is what Donald Trump asks. And whilst on a certain spectrum I can understand that, what you also have to understand is the historical connotation to that, which is that if the United States had that attitude during World War II, there would be no United States anymore, because the Japanese, the Italians, and the Germans would have been too big. They would have just grown and grown and taken over everything until they would be on the United States shores, right? And at that point, they're too powerful to stop. So what I'm asking here is, whose side are you on? If the United States decides to side with the communists, the dictators, the authoritarians, the Islamic terrorists, and that's the irony as well, because I don't think Trump supports Israel in the Israel-Palestine conflict because he likes Israel. I think he supports it because he sees his own opportunities there to make himself grow, to make America grow. Let's be very clear about this. I think Donald Trump is very bad for the world for a while. But I think we need that wake-up call. And I also think that he's not a bad man necessarily, but he is, I would say, 90% an idiot and 10% a genius. And that's a very dangerous combination. It's kind of like the opposite of what Elon Musk is. He's 90% a genius and 10% an idiot. And that 10% basically means he's extravagant, extraordinary, but it also means that he makes choices that are based on emotions. Now, he might not agree with me saying that. I'm going to be honest. He would probably say that he deliberates things. But if he were to listen to this, I would ask him this. When you deliberate, be honest with yourself. When you deliberate, do you go by how you feel about your deliberation, or do you simply do 1 + 1 = 2? Because I don't think it's the latter. And we can see this by the way that he bought Twitter, which is kind of ironic, right? Because Twitter was not a financial decision. It was a decision based on emotion, on impact, right? On power. So I'm asking you, why does this guy work with someone in a government, that be Donald Trump, so well, even though they're so different? And that's kind of showing what the United States has become now. That is how you can tell what the United States is trying to do. The United States isn't trying to make the world a better place. The United States isn't trying to make America better for the Americans, or else they would have done something with the healthcare. No. What is the United States government trying to do? Expand. That's all they care about. They care about the power, about the expansionism. And honestly, I can kind of understand why. If you look at the history of the United States has, in fact, offered a lot to the world and not gotten much back for it. The people who gave most back to it were the Europeans. But even that's kind of halted, because the Europeans have stagnated, right? Ever since colonialism ended for the Europeans. There's no trade anymore to that extent. There's no we only have shared military operations for Europe. So what Donald Trump is saying kind of makes sense, which is, what does Europe have to offer for the United States? Why is the United States doing this? It's more of an isolationist policy that the United States is taking. They want to expand. They want to be an empire. They don't care about anyone else. And that's kind of what I'm trying to say here. I think that there's a sort of emotional angle to this. Ego. And I think that ego is also fueled by the fear of the American people. Joe Biden would have been an idiot. He's senile. And he's very inappropriate at times. Kamala Harris, absolutely dumb. She cannot comprehend how legality works. She cannot comprehend how it's not racist to not want invaders in your country. But let's also be honest. Let's be completely fair here. Donald Trump is not a hero. And to any other conservatives here who are still listening to me, I know that your heart is in the right place, but ask yourself this. Would Donald Trump save you? Or let you die? If letting you die meant that America could get more power. If letting you die meant that he could get more control. And then look at his track record. Look at what he's doing to the world. Look at what every leader is doing to the world. And you will understand. Thank you for listening. Subscribe for more. Share this with your friends and family. And I'll see you in the next one.